In this tutorial video, I'll be showing you how to create a Discord bot, especially the setup so that we can create more advanced bots in the future. This is the first video in a series of 4. In the other videos, I'll show you how to create a music bot, moderation bot, and how to actually host these bots on the internet so that they'll always appear online. In this video, however, we'll go through the setup process of the bot. Then we'll look at some code examples, and then at the end, I'll show you how to read and understand the discord.py documentation so that you can find all the cool features that discord.py has to offer. We'll be using Python, of course, specifically version 3.12 and discord.py version 2.4.0. If you don't have Python installed, I'll link a video at the top right of the screen, which you can click to get it installed on your device. For my IDE, I'll be using Visual Studio Code. If you don't know what an IDE is, it's basically just a text editor where you can write all your code in. Before we start, please remember to like the video, subscribe if you find it useful. Also check out my other social media and consider supporting me on Patreon. Thank you so much. But that's enough with introductions. Let's start with the video. Before we can start coding, we need to do some setup first. First thing you have to do is create a Discord server where you can actually test the bot. So I have one here. You can create your own by clicking the plus button here at the bottom left and just following the steps. The second step would be to search this on Google or just go to this link. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on this one here and then go to applications at the top left. These are all your Discord applications. You can create a new one by clicking the new application button at the top right. I'll be calling mine tutorial bot. Create, and then I'm a human. Okay, you can give your application a description. You can give it some tags, but we're mostly interested in this bot tab here on the left. So go ahead and click that. And here you can actually give your bot an image, which is pretty nice. You can give it a banner as well. The username is here. This token is going to be important later. And then here, I just want to quickly talk about these intents. Intents are basically permissions that your bot has. So here, message content intent is pretty important. That actually allows the bot to look at messages. So I'm going to click on save changes here after enabling it, because that's a pretty important one. And then that's pretty much all on this page. Now we need to make the bot join the server. To do that, you go to the OAuth 2 tab here on the left and then scroll down a bit. This is a bot that we're making, so I just select bot. And then here, you should only choose the things that your bot's actually going to do. But to make things simple for myself and for the tutorial, I'm just going to click on administrator. To make the bot join, we should copy the link that it generated at the very bottom of the page. I'm going to go and paste that here in a new tab. And then, okay, there, it opened in Discord. So here, you have to choose the server where you want to add the bot. So I'm going to click on test server because that's the one I just made. And then here's where it asks me if I'm going to allow this bot to have administrator, which I'm just going to allow because obviously for the tutorial. And then I am human. There we go. Okay, and there we go. The bot has successfully joined the Discord server. So now that the bot joined the server, we can go ahead and give the bot some logic. So we're going to start writing code. I'm going to right click. I'm going to create a new folder. And then I'm going to call this Discord bot, but you can call this whatever you want. Inside of this folder, we're going to store the entire project. What I'm going to do in this folder is I'm going to create a Python virtual environment. Now, if you don't know what that is, I'll give a quick explanation. A Python virtual environment is basically an isolated workspace that doesn't interfere with any of the Pythons installed on the system. Now, here's a good example of why we use these environments in the first place. Sometimes you might be working on a bunch of different projects, right? And some of these projects might be dealing with facial recognition. Let's say they all use the same library for this facial recognition feature, but they need different versions of the same library. What would end up happening is they would all conflict with each other because this application needs, for example, version 1.2, and the other one needs version 1.5, and the other one 2.0. Now, to manage that, a Python virtual environment would be perfect because all of them would have their own isolated workspace where they can install the libraries that they need, the versions that they need as well. So that's what I'm going to do inside of this Discord bot folder. We're going to do most of this in the terminal or command prompt. Now, we could right click and open this folder in terminal, but I've had permission errors in the past, so I'm going to just open an administrator instead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here. I'm going to copy this path right there by clicking Control C. I'm going to go to search, type in CMD, and then I'm going to click on command prompt, or at least right click, run as administrator. and then click on yes, of course. And then I want to actually change directory. So I want to go into this folder from this. So I'm going to say cd, change directory, and then I'm going to paste that path and press enter. And now we're inside of this directory there. So you can see we're inside of the folder we just created. Now we can actually go ahead and install the tools we're going to use to create this Python virtual environment we've been talking about so much. So pip install virtual env, and then press enter. Don't worry if yours looks different. It's just because I already have this installed. Now that we have the tool to create virtual environments, I'm going to go ahead and, create it. So virtual env, if I spell it correctly, virtual env, and then I'm going to call it DC env. This is just going to create a folder inside of this other folder we made, which is going to be the virtual environment. So this folder, I'm just going to press enter so long. This folder here is going to be the virtual environment. I don't think it's registering. Wait. Oh, I did spell it wrong. Oh, I see. I switched my A and my U. Okay. But regardless, there we go. Just spell it the same way. Here, it created the folder for us. So I'm going to open this just to show you. This lib folder is going to contain all of our libraries, I guess. And this scripts folder actually contains a bunch of important files, specifically these activate, which is actually going to activate the environment for us, because currently this environment's not active yet. If we were to run a Python program from this terminal, we'd be using system Python. Now, in order to actually use our environment, we need to activate it so that if we do run a Python application, we use this environment to run that Python application. So to do that, we have to go to this scripts folder here and activate these files, but I'm going to do it from here because we need a terminal to actually do it. So I'm going to do cd, and I'm going to actually change directory into this DC-env folder we made. So DC_env, enter, and then we're inside of it now, as you can see. And then I'm going to do cd scripts, and then we're inside of scripts. We could have just done this in one step, but doesn't matter. We got to where we should be. And then I'm going to do, I think it's just activate. Yeah, it's just activate. Okay. So you just type activate, and since we're in command prompt, it should have used the activate.bat one. These other ones, as far as I'm concerned, are for different shells. So here on the left, this is indicating that we're currently using the environment we made. So if I were to run a Python application now, it would be using this environment. It would be using the settings that we set up in this environment. Now that we have our environment active, I'm actually going to go ahead and install some libraries for it. So the first one we're going to use is pip install discord.py. Discord.py we're going to use to do the Discord related stuff. I mean, that's pretty obvious. The second one is a bit less obvious. Pip install python-env. This is basically just going to help us with environment variables. Now, you don't have to worry too much about what that is right now. Just know that our application is going to store a bunch of important information, but we want to store that information somewhere else to keep it a bit more secure and safe. So we're going to use that library for that. And I do think that should be all. You can actually just close this terminal now because we're done with it. So we have the environment here, but now inside this, I'm going to go and right click. I'm going to click on new, and I'm going to create a text document. Now, I'm not sure if you see the .txt on your side, but if you don't, go to View and then go to Show File Name Extensions. This should be checked. I'm going to right click on this text document because I want to rename it. We're basically just going to create the Python file now. This is going to be the file where the bot's code is going to be stored. Don't call it discord.py because that might conflict with the library we installed. I'm going to call mine my bot bot.py. Enter. Just click yes. And there we go. That's most of the setup done. One last thing is I want to show you how to use this inside of Visual Studio Code, because that's where we're actually going to be writing the code. So I have it installed here. I'm just going to click it, open it, whatever. And I'm going to close this folder and I'm going to drag it here, just so that we actually open everything here. There we go. Now, this is pretty important. I'm going to make this full screen. If we were to run this mybot.py file right now, we wouldn't be using the environment. So to actually use the environment, I want you to click Control-Shift-P. And then I want you to search for this option, Select Interpreter. You can just search it, Select Interpreter, whatever. It's there. You can search for it. It should be there. Click on it. And then you should see that the environment you created should be, I think, at the very top, or at least somewhere there. So select that, boom. And then every time I run my Python script now, it's going to use that environment. Okay, cool. So now we're going to write some Python code, and all of the code is going to go inside of this mybot.py file right here. We now get to the actual code that we need to write in order to get the bot to work. The first step is to import all the libraries that we'll be using. We import OS so that we can easily make use of operating system functionality. We'll make use of this library to load in our bot's token from another file. I'll talk more about the token later. We also import Discord because we need to actually interact with the Discord API. We also need to do these two imports because our bot is going to be using commands. The bottom one allows us to add parameters to our bot's /commands. And finally, we also import .env to help with our bot's token. Now, what is this token in the first place? Every Discord bot has its own unique token, and in order to control your bot through code, you need to tell your code what Discord bot to actually control in the first place, which is achieved using the token. This, of course, means that anyone that has access to your token will be able to control your bot, so make sure nobody else has access to this token. Many times people ask me questions and then they send their code on my public Discord server, but their token is still visible in the code that they share. Please don't do this. Anyone else that sees this code will be able to control your bot. Now, how do we actually get our code to connect with the bot we created earlier? Well, we need to go back to the developer portal, and then under this bot tab, we'll regenerate the token and then copy it. Keep in mind that every time you regenerate the token, you'll have to copy and paste it into your project again. Back in our project, we can create a file called .env. This file will store our bot's token, and our code will read the token from this file. The reason we use a .env file is because it's a lot safer and more secure than just doing a direct copy and paste into our bot's code. Inside of the .env file, we write discord_token equals, and then after the equal sign, paste the token. Back in our code, we write the following two lines. The first one will load the .env file we just created, and the second will retrieve the token variable that we just created. So our token is now stored inside of this token variable. We can then create our bot's intents. Intents are the permissions that the bot has on the server. And before we can bring our bot to life, we need to specify what permissions it'll have. This first line creates an intents object that will basically store the configuration for the permissions. In order to set the bot's permissions, we basically have to change this object. And that's exactly what this second line does. The second line changes the message content intent to true, meaning that the bot will be able to read and handle messages. A quick note has to be made here, because some of the intents you will enable will require you to additionally enable them on the developer portal too. These intents are called privileged intents, and the message content intent happens to be one of them. We can create the actual bot object. This object represents our Discord bot. We need to pass in a command prefix argument in case we ever want to use prefixed commands. Prefixed commands are those commands that you can type into the Discord chat to make the bot do something, like !P to make the bot play music or something. You could make this empty because in the upcoming tutorials we'll be using / commands instead of prefixed commands, but it is best practice to include a prefix anyway, even if you plan on never using it. And in case you don't know what / commands are, they're the commands that pop up when you type /. All those commands you see are / commands. In our bot's creation code, we also need to tell the bot to use the intents object we just created, so that the bot may expect to use these permissions. We're almost ready to run our code and see our bot come online, but we need to write code to actually make the bot come online first, and we'll do this by creating code for the bot's startup event. We can do this by adding an event event decorator and then changing the bot's onReady event. You might be asking yourself what an event is in the first place. So let me explain. An event is literally just something that happens inside the Discord server. For example, every time a user joins the server, the onMemberJoin event gets called. Every time a user joins a voice channel, the corresponding event will get called. Every time a user sends a message, an event will get called, and so on. Everything that happens on the server has an event connected to it, and we can listen for these events and run some code every time these events happen. The onReady event is actually a bit more special and is just an event that runs when the bot comes online and is ready to start doing its job. The function that handles what the bot should do after a certain event is called an event handler, and we're currently working with the onReady event handler, which means the code inside of this function will get called once the bot is ready. As for the decorator at the top here, that's just so Discord knows we're working with an event handler. All we're going to do for now is to display our bot's information in the terminal when the bot comes online. To actually run our bot, we need to write bot.run and pass our token into the parameter. Once this is done, we can actually run our code for the first time, and if we give it a second to set everything up, we should see our bot come online in the terminal, which means that if we go to Discord itself, we should also see the bot online here. So congrats to you if you've gotten everything to work up until this point. Back in our code, to make the bot stop running, we click the trash icon here at the bottom right. We have our bot fully set up now, and the code you're seeing on the screen is the code we'll be using to create the future bots in this series. I do, however, want to show a few more things that'll be useful later on. One important event is the onMessage event, and it gets called whenever a user sends a message to the Discord server. I want to create an event handler for this event that'll basically just make the bot reply whenever someone sends a message on the server. Every time we create an event handler, remember to add the event decorator. After this, we add the event handler function itself, and it has one parameter, which we'll call MSG for message. This is the message that got sent. Inside of the function, we should check to make sure that we're not taking the bot's messages into account. Otherwise, the bot will send a message and then read its own message and then send another message. This process will repeat infinitely, so we need to make sure that all messages we process are not written by the bot. We do this by checking that the author of the message has a different ID compared to our bot's ID. Once we've made sure the message wasn't sent by our bot, we'll just write the following code to send a message to the same channel that the original message was sent in. That's what this code does. This code will send a message that says interesting message, and then it'll ping the user that sent the message. I know it's a bit dumb, but this is purely to show you how events work. If we run the bot and then go to the Discord server, we'll see that the bot comes online again. I'll go ahead and send a random message, and we should see how the bot responds to my message. So as you can see, the bot responds, and it even mentions me, which is pretty neat. Back in our code, remember to click the trash icon before writing any more code. There's one last thing I want to show you before explaining the discord.py documentation. I want to show a quick overview of a basic slash command. I'm going to copy and paste the code for a very basic slash command, which greets the user once the command is run, and then I'll explain what all the code does step by step. Before this code can work though, we need to make sure that all the bot's slash commands are visible on the server. To do this, we go to the onReady event handler and add the following line of code: await bot.tree.sync. Without this line, the slash commands won't appear on the servers where the bot is present, so it's important to have it included. When we look at the slash command code, you'll see mentions of a tree. So let's talk about what a tree command is. We've worked a bit with events so far, but slash commands work a little differently. Slash commands are organized into a command tree that the bot has. This means that all the slash commands you create will form part of this tree structure, which is basically just a fancy way of saying that the bot keeps track of all your slash commands in one organized place. On the first line, we have this decorator at bot.tree.command. This is basically telling our bot, hey, I want to create a new slash command and add it to your command tree. We then give the command a name, in this case greet, and a description so that when someone types /greet in Discord, they'll see what the command does right away. The next part is where we actually define the function that will run when the /greet command is used. We call this function greet, and as you can see, it receives a parameter called interaction of type discord.interaction. Now what exactly is this interaction thing? An interaction is basically a special type of object that Discord sends to our bot whenever someone uses a command. Think of it like a package of information that tells our bot everything it needs to know about this specific command usage. For example, which user ran the command, in which channel the command was used, and a whole bunch of other useful details. In our code, we're making use of interaction.user.mention, which will retrieve the user that ran the command and mention them in the message we send back. The interaction object is basically our direct connection to the context of the command, the user, the channel, and more. We then respond back to the user by calling await interaction.response.sendMessage. This sends a message back to Discord as a reply to the user who triggered the / command. We write a greeting and use an F string to insert the user's mention right inside the message. Because we're dealing with asynchronous code, just like the rest of Discord.py, we make sure to use await before calling interaction.response.sendMessage. This ensures that our code waits for Discord to send the message before moving on. With all that said, let's run the bot one last time and then go back to Discord to test the newly created / command. After waiting for the bot to come online, I'm going to type /greet. You should already see it coming up, so I'll just click it, and then the bot responds and greets me, which is pretty cool. For the last part of this video, I'd like to show you how to read and understand the Discord.py documentation. Okay, so this is the official Discord.py documentation. I'll leave this link in the description in case you want to check it out. So what I wanted to show you is this API reference here. If we go to this API reference, everything on this page is what Discord has to offer. So earlier in the video, I was talking about event handlers. Let's say you want to check out what all of the event handlers are. Well, you can use this left panel and then go to the event reference. These are the categories for all the events that there are. So if I go to messages, this one here, the on message event, is the one I used in the video. This one is for if someone edits a message, so you can use this event handler. This one is if someone deletes a message, and obviously the documentation doesn't just contain the events, it also contains other stuff you can do with Discord.py. The point I'm trying to get across is that if you want to do anything in Discord.py, then this should be one of the first places you consult. Obviously you could Google, you could even ask ChatGPT. I'm pretty sure it would give you a nice answer. All I'm saying is if you can't figure something out, just come to this documentation. It's actually pretty nice. That's it for the Discord.py introduction and setup. Thanks so much for watching. I hope the video helped. Please remember to like the video and subscribe. Also check out my other social media and consider supporting the channel on my Patreon account. It would mean a lot. Thanks again, and I'll see everyone in the next video.